Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I am your host, Jim Schubert. I'm also your headmaster because this is an academy. Folks, super excited about my guest today. If you're wanting to learn about branding, marketing, agency operations, which is what this show is about, today is solidly fits in, I think, really all three of those categories with our guests. But before we start, I want to talk about another tool that you can use to grow your business, grow your book of business. If you go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/stories, what I've put together for you there is a framework for how to tell your own clients' stories to attract other people to your business. I've created a framework. I've created a downloadable worksheet that you can use to craft stories. Stories have become something that a lot of people are talking about now. It's something that is used more and more in terms of attracting people to you, because we have been telling stories for thousands of years. And if you watch TV or movies or consume anything on the internet that has to do with storytelling, you know how much time people spend doing that and can get easily sucked into a good story. So I want you to learn how to use the power of storytelling for you in business. So just go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/stories. Folks, today I have Jeff Teschke. He is from Forge 3 and he's going to be talking to us. And this is fantastic. I wrote this down beforehand. He's actually going to be talking to us about he said if this was a masterclass, it would be called "Don't Wear Sweatpants to a Wedding." I'm going to have to ask him about that. He probably forgot that he even wrote that. And now he's off camera going, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about now?" But let me tell you about his journey, okay? I'm going to read this as if I were Jeff. Before starting Forge 3 in 2004, I began my career with an insurance agency my dad ran called Personal Lines Insurance Brokerage, PLI. It was a large, wholly owned subsidiary of Chubb, more than 300 employees across 30 field offices. If I'm reading this as Jeff, I had a front row seat to both the carrier and agency side of the insurance business and worked on web projects, agency management system integrations, and other marketing projects. This later became the foundation for Forge 3, which he's going to talk about today. While there, I recognized an opportunity in the mobile marketing industry and created the award-winning iSpot mobile scavenger hunt gaming platform. Definitely going to have to ask you about that, which got the attraction very quickly of Microsoft, Coca-Cola, among others. However, I saw many of my insurance agency friends struggling to understand and use the web, apps, and digital marketing. I wanted to do something about it, so Forge 3 was born. Today, our ActiveAgency website platform is the highest rated, fastest growing solution in the insurance industry, powering well over 1,000 agencies across the country and around the globe. Powerful sales tools and servicing features like clickable coverage, very excited to talk about that, Hello Producer, and video proposals enable insurance agencies to look amazing, get found, sell more, and service better. But we're still just getting started. Jeff Teschke, welcome to the show, sir. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to call you Jeff from now on after that beautiful reading of that bio.
Did I read it in your voice?
You did it better than I would have read it. Nice job.
No way, man. No way. You're the best you there is, Jeff.
Well, that might be true.
Should I ask your wife? Okay.
You should. Yeah, I don't know if she'll agree, but you can ask her.
All right, so I'm curious, man. Forge 3, like I wasn't sure if it was Forge Cubed, Forge 3. What the heck does that mean?
Silly name. Sometimes I joke now we should rename the company ActiveAgency because that's what we do. That's what we're known for. But Forge 3 was back, it was 2004, May of 2004. I needed a name for company number 3. And when I used to sign off my emails at the end, I used to put Forge Ahead. And it was just something I started doing kind of subconsciously. And I was like, Forge, interesting. Forge, like Forge Ahead. And I happened to
Yeah.
come from a steel town in Pittsburgh, and I moved to a
Ah.
steel town in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And steel forging and this whole thing was kind of in my
Ooh.
mind. I said, Forge 3, that's the name of the company. Didn't give it much thought. And I certainly didn't think it was going to be a thing that was going to be around almost 20 years later that people would know us by. So it's a silly name, and that's kind of where it came from. Although if you ask us now, if you went to a conference and you saw some of us standing there at the booth or whatever, we probably wouldn't say that. We would say it stands for which our motto, which is launch, do, and grow. Those are the
Mm.
three things that the Forge three, the three in that name stands for. So
That's awesome.
that's
I
where it came
love it when
from,
you
though.
can find multiple meanings in a name like that, and over time that they turn into something that means even more to you. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's kind of interesting how it progressed like that. It's a silly name. It really is a silly name. And active agency is also kind of an interesting thing where there was very little thought, honestly, that went into naming that.
Yeah,
I think it works really well, but if we get into it later, we could talk about where it came from. But it was just one of those things like we just called active agency, and that was kind of okay. Let's do that, and then we're on to the next thing. So it's interesting. These things have taken on lives of their own, well
yeah,
beyond that initial kind of conception.
yeah. I love that, and I do want to talk about that. What I'm really curious is, what did you mean by "don't wear sweatpants to a wedding"? Why is that the theme?
Good question. I think that especially with websites, because obviously that's what Forge 3 does primarily with a website platform. And it's hard to quantify the value of all things that the website does for an agency or just any business on the planet.
Yeah,
And often I'll tell you a quick story. So there was a
yeah.
agency
I love stories.
principal named Jim, also not you, different Jim. And this was a couple years ago now. He called up and said, sign us up for your active agency platform, et cetera. I said, okay, cool. Why? He said, well, for the first time, I've never had this happen in like 2, 3 decades of running the agency. But I had a prospect tell me to my face the reason why he's not going to use us is because our website sucks.
Hmm.
Like that's what the prospect said. So Jim, the principal, lost that business because the other guys down the street had a better presence, had a better first impression, had a better story to tell
Yeah,
about their agency. And that's kind of where this concept came from, which is how many times are people looking at something that you have out there and you have no idea? It could be the sign on the side of the road for your
yeah,
agency. It could be your business card. It could be the pen that you had created with your logo on it. It could be your website. More and more it is because it's online, and that's where people typically see you for the first time more and more these days. It's like you wouldn't wear sweatpants to a wedding, right? Like it's just not what you would do. It's not how you would project yourself typically.
yeah.
It's the same concept, I think, when you're thinking about it from a business standpoint. That's where it came from.
I love that. It's funny. There was a time when we have multiple office locations, and there was a time when one of our larger offices where our producers mostly was in kind of a like a what do you call it, like I keep thinking park. Oh, an industrial park. Yeah. and
Mhm.
and it didn't really fit with who we were, right? And at the time it was like, yeah, it was good cheap rent, and it was good location. Actually, it just wasn't really like when I thought of what Southern States Insurance. When we started out, we were Schubert Insurance Services for like 2 months, and then my dad was like, no, I want to go bigger. Let's call it Southern States Insurance. It's large, right? And as I started, maybe about 20 years ago, we were still in this industrial park for that office, and I was like, this isn't us. This isn't us. And so when we had the opportunity to move, we moved into a much nicer looking place, paid a little bit more rent, but we stopped wearing sweatpants to work. So
Totally.
yeah,
It makes a
it
big
makes sense.
difference. I think
Yeah.
would you, if you're going out to a networking event or a business function or something, you think about your first impression that you're making on people.
Yeah.
And more and more so than that, more so than going to networking events and local events or whatever, that happens way more online and it scales online. But it's the same principles apply. It's just a different way of thinking about it. And I can tell you that going back to that story I just told on with Principal Jim, he never thought about the website or anything online before that prospect said that we're going with the other guy down the street. So how
Yeah.
often does that happen and you're not hearing about it? More often than we probably all realize.
Yeah. We are branding ourselves, whether we know it or not, and whether we like it or not. And I think people think of branding as like some active thing that they're consciously trying to do to look better. Well, sure. But if like if you're not actively trying to do that, you still have a brand that people have come to know in their mind of, the guy that wears sweatpants to a wedding. So
Yeah, for sure. And it's everything.
yeah.
I think everything adds up. It's how many, when was the last time you bought a product on Amazon that had 1 star review? It
Yeah.
doesn't happen. So it's
Right.
it's all of that stuff online, the reputation indicators, the credibility indicators, as we call them, the testimonials, the reviews, kind of across the board that I think adds up to making that first impression virtually before you even know that other person exists.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about it a little bit in your bio, or technically you did through my voice. Um, what what was the pivotal moment for you when you realized, okay, agents don't know what the heck they're doing and they desperately need my help?
Yeah, so that goes back to when I was going to college back in the late 90s. I graduated in 2000 from the University of Scranton. Any Office fans will know where that is. Um,
I got the
and
music
I
going
was
through my
working
head
at
now.
I was working at Chubb back in the day. I was the webmaster at a, as you mentioned, at the agency my dad was running, which was owned by Chubb.
Mm,
And long story short, left there, did the iSpot thing, the scavenger hunt game, which is a lot of fun, a lot of stories about that. But I was always working a lot in the insurance industry, and kind of fast forward to 2004 and beyond, started to realize that, like I just said, with this, the first impressions that a lot of agencies were making were awful, quite honestly. There's this reputation, and it's, I think, partially earned, that the insurance world is about fax machines buzzing and old-fashioned rotary dial phones and printers spewing off papers left and right and a bunch of filing cabinets behind us, and all of this different stuff. And I said, well, that's not all of them. Like, sure,
yeah.
some are like that still, but there's going to be a transition happening. That transition has been happening over the last decade plus. There are a lot more, I think, progressive thinking agencies, and um, people they understand kind of how the world turns these days, and are embracing that. And those are the
Mhm.
ones that end up winning. But that's really where it came from. It's like there's got to be a better way to help the industry that I came from, that my dad worked in his entire career, advance and keep up with the times. And that's
Yeah.
ultimately where Forge 3 settled into the groove. And we were able to so far have an impact
Yeah.
in our own way, which is cool.
That's awesome. And then fast forward to today. I mean, I think back in the day, I remember because you and I started, around the same time, back in 2000 ish. And we didn't have email in our agency when I started.
Yeah.
We didn't, the big thing back then was, an agency should have a website. I was like, yes, we should. The internet is actually a thing now. Well, fast forward to 2022. I think most people understand today, like, yes, you should have a website. That's a given. So, what is Active Agency and what problem is it solving for agents who already have a website, but maybe aren't getting what they need out of it?
Yeah, and I'm still surprised that there are quite a few agencies that don't have a website still.
Really?
Yeah, which is in fact, there we had a couple signups today, and the one said, "I need a website. I don't have a website."
And they've been
So
in
that's
business
not
for more than a month?
it's not uncommon. Yeah,
Wow.
I'd say
Wow.
it's definitely it's a minority for sure, but
Yeah.
it's those businesses still exist. And it's one of the beauties about the insurance industry is you have a book of business, and over time it builds up to be a nice book of business, and you can kind of, as long as your retention is decently high,
Yeah.
you're kind of in good shape with it. So
Yeah.
yes,
Shoot
active
first, market
agencies,
later.
yeah, exactly. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's not a sustainable model, of
Yeah.
course. And I think that's what people are starting to realize more and more. And ultimately, that's where active agency came from. Was how can we provide a platform instead of doing these custom website projects like we were doing in the past for
Mhm.
10, 20, $30,000? How do we do something that's better than that, but built as a platform, and then build all of the knowledge that we've built up from the industry over the last decade plus, and build it into the platform and
Mhm.
make it cost effective so that anybody can afford it for a couple $100 a month. Basically, you have access to all these first class, best in the industry tools, sales tools and servicing tools, and integrations with other systems, and all this really powerful capability.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. And, we basically just said, ActiveAgency launched in 2016. And when we were working on creating the platform called ActiveAgency, the idea was to do exactly that. Take all of the really powerful pieces that we were building in these one-off websites and make it something that we could influence and impact more of the industry and help more of the industry with. And that's exactly what's happened over the last 5+ years now, as we've been making a bigger and bigger impact on the industry, which is cool. Being from the insurance industry and my dad working in the industry, like I mentioned, it's kind of neat to have to feel like we're making a dent in helping agencies, especially the independent channel, thrive and be competitive in today's marketplace.
Yeah. So let's look under the hood for a second. Tell me and our listeners about some of the things that make ActiveAgency different, and why should they care? What problems does it solve for them in their everyday business?
Yeah, I think that the thing that we're known for is that we have an awesome reputation. And you can look at it on our website. We have all of our unedited, completely raw reviews that we've gotten over the last how many years on there. We don't filter them out or anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's reputation and referrals and relationships and all of that, for sure. But the design of the website, it's an awesome first impression, but the performance is there as well. So we want to make sure the website not only looks good, but actually performs well from an SEO or search engine optimization standpoint, but also with sales tools and servicing tools that are all built in and then backed up by us, right? So we support it over the long term. We're constantly adding new features. You mentioned clickable coverage, which are these interactive graphics, which actually predate ActiveAgency. The original concept was we can create these interactive graphics and then just offer those to agencies to put on their existing websites. And we realized quickly that, well, the websites that they had just weren't cutting it. So we need to do the whole thing. But that's a perfect example where we constantly add new graphics, usually on a monthly basis.
So tell everybody what clickable coverage is.
Yeah. So it's visual. So it's always easier to see it.
Yeah.
But you can envision kind of, if you're on your website and let's say you're on the home insurance page, on the page, there would be this interactive graphic. And it'd be a beautiful picture of a home, for example. And there are these little hotspots, we call them, that are kind of pulsating on the screen. And as a prospect or a visitor to the website, you can then start clicking on those hotspots. And each hotspot talks about a certain risk. And then what is the solution? Well, the solution is always going to be to have the right coverage. It's not just how cheap can I get my premium, but do I have the right coverage? So we all know that in the insurance industry, but how do you get other people to recognize that? That's what these graphics are designed to do. So we have 50 plus now graphics, personal lines, commercial lines, employee benefits, deep dives into topics like cyber liability, some like work safety. And what's really interesting from a stats perspective, we can kind of see this across all of our clients. We have around 1,200 right now. And the average time spent on a page that has one of these graphics on it is as high as 6 minutes.
Wow.
And when you think about that, it's incredible that somebody would spend 6 minutes playing around with one of these graphics. Whereas a page that doesn't have something interactive like that, it might be 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And that helps with SEO as well. So really, it's just a really cool sales tool is what clickable coverage is. Pretty unique.
That's awesome. Now, does that show up on mobile too, or no?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All the
Really?
stuff these days, I think, has to work on mobile. Yeah. Yeah. It works great on mobile. It's responsive. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We've done, it's interesting as we have more and more of them, we're getting into the deep niches of insurance at this point, where some of these things that we get requested to create from our clients are really niche down insurance topics. Like, is that a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Because we started years ago with home and auto and all the basics, right? Just a BOP and a business and standard stuff. And now we're over 50, so you start to get into the nooks and crannies of the industry.
That's awesome.
Pretty interesting.
I had a lot of fun playing with it before we got on the show. Actually, I went on the website and I was clicking around. There was one part where like the house met the ground. I was like, what could possibly be a risk there? And it talked about like leaks and flooding and stuff. I was, okay, that makes sense. But it was cool because it really did get you thinking, and it made me curious to click more more sections of the picture. Kind of
That's why
told a
it
story.
works. Yeah, 'cause we were talking to people initially when we were kind of coming up with the idea, and the feedback we heard was it's kind of like a game.
Yeah.
I don't know what this thing is, and I'm curious enough where I want to explore. Most people like to explore by just
Yeah.
by human nature. We're kind of explorers,
Hmm.
and I think that's why it works so well. It especially works well with I think younger demographics too, because if you look at studies and whatnot on millennials and younger, um, these folks want to explore on their own and learn on their own typically. They don't want me or you or anybody else telling them you need to this is what you need to know or whatever. So I
Yeah.
think when you give them information, I don't think this is true of everybody, not just younger demographics, but where they can explore on their own and kind of learn on their own pace and their own way, it makes it more engaging. And I think it's more
Yeah.
effective as
Yeah.
well.
What are some of the other tools that maybe salespeople would be able to use through the website?
Yeah, for sure. There's some cool stuff in there. So another thing is Hello Producer, which we pioneered a long time ago now. Which the easiest way to think of that is, let's say that you want to send a link to somebody. Let's say it's a prospect you're working with, and you want to send them a link to the home insurance page or whatever page you want to send them to.
Yeah.
You can put your hashtag whatever in the address that you're sending them in the link. So yours might be hashtag Jim, and
Hmm.
mine might be hashtag Jeff in the address bar at the end of any link that you send. And when they click on that link, it'll personalize the entire website with your contact information. So the reason it's called Hello Producer is because we heard from producers saying, "Well, I'm not going to send people to the website no matter how many of these cool tools are on there because I want to maintain that relationship." Well, if you do this and put your little hashtag thing on the link that you send, instead of the normal 1-800 number showing up or the front desk number showing up on the website, that gets changed to your direct phone number.
No
And you'll
way.
see a little,
Really?
it's super cool. Yeah. And there's a little panel that pops up at the bottom right where the chat would typically be on the website.
Yeah.
And it comes up with a little headshot and a little picture, your phone number, your email address, a little link to your bio to learn more about the person that you're working with. And even if you, so let's say that prospect fills out the quote request form at that point, or any form,
Yeah.
that form comes into the agency, but it's tagged with your information as well, so that you know that it's Jim's deal, for example. Give Jim production credit or send it to Jim CSR or something like that if it's a service request. Yeah, that's
Whoa.
cool. Really
Okay.
cool.
That, yeah, like selfishly, I'm thinking about our own agency and our website. That is something that has been an issue for a long time that producers have said, like, yeah, I mean, I'd use it more if you could customize some, okay, we'll go customize a page and just take some time
Yeah.
and we replicate it. And now we got duplicate content on, Google doesn't like that. And it's like, wow, that is a fantastic solution. Hello, producer. I love that.
Yeah, that's cool. And even if you go back the next day, you don't have to type the hashtag Jim every time. It
Yeah.
saves it. So it sets a
Okay.
little cookie on the
Yeah.
machine, and the prospect could come back the next day, the day after that. By default, it's 3 days. It'll save it, and then after
Hmm.
the third day, it drops off and it becomes the general information again. But
Yeah.
it maintains that human element, the human connection, which is so powerful in the independent insurance agency world. We wanted to kind of highlight that. Also, think about your email signatures.
Yeah.
So abcagency.com will put hashtag Jeff after whatever your hashtag, whatever your hello producer tag is.
Yeah.
So when people are clicking on it from your email address or your business cards or whatever,
Hmm.
they're seeing the personalized version of the website.
Oh, that is beautiful. Wow. Okay. All right, let's keep going. I saw, let's see, I made a note about, video. Tell me about the
Yeah.
video aspect.
So video proposals is built in too. That's been really interesting, actually. So when the pandemic started, agencies were using video proposals. And just so everyone's aware, video proposals are really simple. You can record your screen, record your webcam at the same time. You can do one or the other. You can do both, whatever. And you can record it and show people maybe some proposals or your different options. I'm going to recommend this carrier and this other carrier. Here are the differences. Here are the different limits and how they affect your premium, whatever you want
Hmm.
to talk about. And it creates a password protected page on your website, and then you send that link with a password to your prospect or your client, and they can watch the video on their own time, which is a total wow factor. They're not expecting you to do this, and it's super
Yeah.
convenient for them. So Before the pandemic, agencies were doing this. When the pandemic hit, all of a sudden there was this massive spike up in the tool usage across,
Yeah,
we could see this kind of across all of the clients, which makes total sense when you think about it, because all
sure.
of a sudden everyone's pushed virtually and remote and all of the stuff. We can't get together face to face as much. And that's come down a little bit since the height of the pandemic, but it's still way more active. It's elevated. More people are using it now than ever before, especially before the pandemic.
Yeah,
So that's a cool one. Very
that's
effective.
awesome.
There's actually a producer that his close ratio is 91% using video proposals.
Jeez.
91% of every new piece of business he touches, when he sends a video proposal, he ends up winning, which is incredible. The average that we hear as far as an increase is usually a 15-20% increase in your close ratio if you use video proposals. Still pretty impressive.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me about you. So you and I connected because of Tori Mertz from Rocket Referrals. Super cool guy. We had him on the show already. I think his episode's live. Well, it's certainly live by the time this comes out. But tell me about, you said off air there's a integration with Rocket Referrals. What does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I think we're also known for are the number of integrations, agency management systems, but also other vendor tools.
Okay.
Rocket Referrals is absolutely in that camp. Love working with those guys. We've become friends over the years, have a lot of mutual clients. And what's really cool is how the two systems, the website is kind of the hub of a lot of marketing these days, of course, and how the spokes of that wheel can feed into other systems. And when you think about it from the standpoint of maybe there's a form on the website, a contact form or a quote request form, or maybe servicing request forms or something like that, that
Mm-hmm.
information can get passed into other systems.
Yeah.
So simple example would be somebody fills out the quote request form that can get passed in to basically the Rocket Referrals. We had a client come on our F3 network session, which is it's a client group, a client exclusive group. So we meet once a month and share kind of successes and war stories and whatnot. And she came on, and this is really cool. So 45 days before the renewal of a policy, she has Rocket Referrals. She's using Rocket Referrals and us. So she has Rocket Referrals send off an automated email to the policyholder with a link in it that drives that client to her website to a form that is the client or the annual review form. So that form basically steps the client through saying,
Wow.
do you have anything we should know, basically? Any
Yeah.
gaps, any missing coverages? Did you make any improvements? And it goes through a multi-step form that kind of builds itself. It has smarts built into it. And at the end, that comes in to her agency. And then she says, oh, geez, you added this pool. We didn't even know about it. Or we did this thing and we didn't have, your coverage needs to be adjusted now. And she's been doing this since mid-December. Right now, as we're recording this, it's mid-March.
Yeah.
So just a couple of months. And she's had hundreds of clients fill out this form, the annual review form. And she's identified all sorts of business opportunities, has written a bunch of umbrella policies as a result of this,
Oh my
completely
gosh.
automated, and connects from Rocket Referrals into ActiveAgency and then kind of back. So it's like a cross sell, upsell kind of a routine. And that's just one example of like how these two platforms can work together.
Okay, wait. Before we go any further, I have to ask the golden question. Is that just for her, or can anybody else who's a client of yours have something similar to that?
Yeah, no, anyone can. If you use Rocket Referrals and if you use ActiveAgency, our platform, that's part of what that integration enables. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
that's it. As we would say in Boston, maybe up in New York, that is a huge sales tool. Wow.
It is, and it's just cool because it's automated and it just works. It just works. So
Yeah.
45 days before the policy renewal, it sends off some emails. The thing that she's doing next, which is going to be really interesting to check back in a month or two, is she's doing some other things with these automated emails out of Rocket Referrals that links to those clickable coverage graphics on the website. So same concept, except now she's saying, all right, how can I do some ups or some cross-sell campaigns? So do you have auto, but you don't have home? Well, then I'm going to send you this automated email that links to the clickable coverage graphic so you can start learning about home insurance, for example.
And as you said before, so that you can go explore on your own and learn it and find out what's most important to you.
And of course, Jim,
she's
going to have she's going to put the hashtag thing on there, right? The hello producer tag. So she'll put her thing on there. So when they click on the link, it personalizes it with the producer's information, which is really neat. It really ties the pieces together in a really unique way.
Jeff, this is one of the coolest things I've heard of in a long time. I'm not just like paying lip service. I am super excited to talk to you off air about what this could look like in our own agency. Like, I already feel bad for the guys that handle our website right now. I wish them well, but we probably won't be clients of theirs much longer. So, wow.
That's one of the benefits of using somebody that specializes in the insurance industry. These things are just built in, and the integrations that we have with tools like Rocket Referrals, there are a bunch of other tools in different sectors of the solution set that we can connect with too. But it's because that's all we do is we work in the insurance industry, so we know the industry really well.
Wow, man. Okay. Well, that answers a lot of questions like, how is your website company different from all the other website companies out there, especially even the ones that are in the insurance industry? Those are things that I haven't heard anybody doing. And it's all about that automation that really is a time saver. And I mean, you just put essentially the reason for me and probably a lot of other insurance agencies who are, on the fence about Forge 3 or just figuring out what to do next with their website is there's a built-in cross-sell tool. That's what you just told me. That's a moneymaker. Like, is my website currently making me money? Yeah. I mean, from the standpoint of people, find us through, web searches, and that's great that SEO is working and they might fill out a form, but to use it like that as a tool for cross-selling with our existing clients, that's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, and that's where that integration, again, with Rocket Referrals in that particular case is so powerful. You can also look at it in a different way, where even just having somebody hit the website, maybe they're doing a Google search and the website shows up, they come over to the website, they explore around, they click on clickable coverage a little bit, and they fill out a quote request form or something like that. That can just be passed into the agency management system. Something as kind of simple as that. And then there could be different triggers within the AMS that can also do kind of some neat things. So yeah, there's a lot of really powerful, but yet simple. The things that we're talking about here are not very difficult because the technology exists. Yeah. It's just a matter of connecting the dots a little bit.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Any other big like money making integration type tools that you can think of off the top of your head that agents are probably not aware even exist?
We talked about quite a few of them. I would suggest live chat is another just kind of a good thing to have.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have that on ours. And I'll tell you, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the reason, and maybe you can tell me, like, Jim, you're not thinking about it the right way, but the reason we've been hesitant to sign up for any kind of live chat is because I keep thinking, well, okay, we're here from like 8:30 to 5, and I know there's some agents that would work longer than that, but a lot of my staff that they might not work that long, and can we have somebody that's even, can we be responsive enough during those working hours? That's one of my biggest thoughts.
Yeah, that's a common question. Another common question that we'll hear is, what happens if somebody is on the chat and doesn't know the answer? So it's a commercial lines question, and somebody that grabbed the chat is a personal lines guru or something.
Yeah.
Or what if? How do I even staff it internally? I don't. Who's going to do what, and how do we make sure? Kind of to what you were asking about, I think, Jim. So yeah, my suggestion with live chat is that it doesn't hurt to try it. Yeah. And a lot of the chat systems, and we can integrate pretty much with any of them. And actually, Rocket Referrals is a chat system, a web chat system now too, which we can integrate with. We recommend one called Chatra. Oftentimes, there's a free plan. You can plug it into any website. It's CHATRA.com. And we don't have any kind of vested interest in them or anything. It's just one that we've used quite a bit in the past. But there are a bunch of them. Podium's another one. There's a bunch. But no, so my suggestion would be you can set it up so there's an off hours component. So
Okay.
for example, for us, we don't work 24/7 either at Forge 3.
You
So
guys aren't
after
robots?
5 o'clock, not quite, not yet. We can automate some things, but not everything. But so at 5 o'clock or whatever time, it goes to a message that says, "Hey, we're not around anymore. Email," and then it's our email address if you need something. But we still get those chats, and if somebody happens to see it, they can still respond. If not, we already set the expectations right there that we're not here, and here's our
Mm,
email address if you want to get a hold of us. You could
right.
take the web chat down at a certain time and have nothing there. I personally think it makes sense to still offer it. You could go into the chatbot arena, which after hours it kind of turns into a chat bot and kind
Yeah.
of steps people through it. My suggestion on that would be don't skip over the live chat piece of it. Sometimes I think there's a tendency, you hear a lot of automate this and automate this and automate the whole agency kind of a thing. And then people there's an appeal to just skipping over all of the steps in between. I don't think you need to automate things until you first start doing them manually.
Yeah.
So put the live chat on. You have people there. You're hiring
Yeah.
people. You have people at the agency. You're paying people to do a job. That's what makes you different and unique.
Yes.
Put them out there front and center and let them
Yeah.
handle the chats. And you can have different groups. You have a good size agency, Jim. You can have different groups, have different chats from different pages on the website, for example. So if they're on a
Yeah.
commercial lines page, it goes to a certain group, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But here's
Almost
the thing. I would do it.
like a hunt group or something.
Yeah, kind of like that, kind of like a phone system.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's the bottom line with it.
Okay.
We get more chats per day than we get phone calls.
What?
So it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think either, Jim. What matters is what our clients think, what our prospects think, what our audience thinks. And if our audience, whoever your audience is, prefers that stream of communication, well, isn't it in our best interest to have a duty to provide that, at least as an
Yeah.
option to them? I would say, sure,
Okay.
we do.
So that is really interesting. Are you saying that Forge 3 gets more chats, or your clients who are using your product get more chats?
No, on Forge. So if you go to forge3.com,
Yep.
there's live chat on our website.
Yeah.
And that's where our phone ring. We have a phone number too. You can
Yeah.
call us or you can email us, whatever. But we often get more chats per day coming into us, people
Yeah.
interested in Forge 3,
Yeah.
than we get anything else,
That's
which is
that's interesting.
kind
I'd
of
be curious to
kind of
see what
interesting.
kind of data is in that same realm for your clients who are using it, like insurance agencies. Like, are they getting
Yep.
more chats, or is it still a lot of phone? I don't know if you have any data around that now, or if that's something you can look into.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to be doing is running more stats and reporting across the entire kind of collection of sites that we have.
Yeah.
But anecdotally, I can say a lot of it depends on the traffic going to the website. So if you
Okay.
have an agency that's a big agency, well established in the community, gets a bunch of traffic left and right from clients and prospects and all this, well, of course, the usage is going to be higher for everything on the website,
Yeah.
including the chat.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a scratch agent just getting started, adding live chat is not some magical wand where it turns your website into some $1 million money making machine.
Yeah.
It's just a tool, just like your phone number is a tool that people
Yeah.
can call.
Yeah. Just because you publish your phone number doesn't mean that you're gonna
Right. It's
like.
not going to ring.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. That's awesome. Well, look, I want to get into the rapid fire round here, but any last kind of parting thoughts on what Forge 3 and ActiveAgency can do for agents, and why it's important?
I mean, we have a demo. You can watch a demo on our
Okay.
website. So forge3.com is a good place to go if any of this interests you. And even if the platform's not right for you for whatever reason, there's a help center on there, so you can learn a lot about some of the things that we've seen in the
Yeah.
industry over the years, and
Yeah.
take advantage of that. Use that information and kind of influence your own thinking and how you operate at the agency. The stuff that we're talking about is not going away. It'll become more prevalent, and the agencies that understand it and are excited about it and passionate about making a difference within the agency over the long term, it's really a matter of embracing the technology and the ways that the technology can empower us all and connect the dots together in a way that we've really have never seen in history. So
Yeah.
it's an exciting time. It's a little bit intimidating, I think, too, but it's an exciting time, and we're excited to be a small part of that landscape at this point.
That's phenomenal. I love it. All right. Rapid fire round. You ready? Couple
Let's
quick
go.
questions for you.
All
All right.
right.
One, now you can't say Forge 3. One piece of technology or software you can't live without.
Oh, iPhone.
Okay. What app?
What app on the iPhone? All of them. I would say that actually the internet is really the piece of technology that I don't think I could live without. So it's
Yeah.
anything that goes through the internet, which is the key there.
Yeah. True.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Communications, I think, is an important piece of it.
Yeah.
Text messaging app. We use Slack at Forge
Okay.
3.
Yeah.
So any of those. But my
Yeah.
iPhone, I think, is the thing that I'd have a hard time giving up.
It's funny, man. The more people I ask, the more that's like the first thing out of people's mouths. It really is
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, I love my kids. I love my kids, and my kids. I have a couple kids that are a little older than yours. I have a 16-year-old, 14, and a 10. 10's our youngest. And I tell you what, when we dole out punishments, typically it surrounds their electronics, like like the teenagers have phones, right?
Yep.
Currently, my son Oliver, I love you, son, but currently he is without a phone this week, and it is a really hard thing. It is a
So is my
really hard
daughter.
thing.
My daughter's without her iPad,
Yeah,
probably for the same reasons, my
yeah,
guess is. But yeah, we use screen time on the iPad, which
yeah,
is like it's a way to lock down the devices for kids, especially, and limit them to certain amounts of time. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's amazing though,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's just like the one thing that gets their attention, and I think
And
more
it's
and more.
everything. It's the way I pay. It's the way I pay for stuff now. It's literally the way I run a business. Literally
Yeah,
everything is on the phone.
yeah,
Obviously.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's one book that you're reading now or that you've read recently that you just love and you want to share with folks?
This is going to sound embarrassing. I don't read. I don't read books. I should say I don't read books. Let me qualify that. Which is like the antithesis of every successful person I've ever heard about in my life. Everyone's like, "Oh, I have a bookshelf behind me, and there's a bazillion books, and I read a book
Yeah,
a day, and all this."
yeah,
I do a lot of reading, but in a lot of consuming content, video content, especially YouTube and whatnot, and a lot of it's business oriented. But my reading tends to be geared towards online reading. It's just
yeah.
reading articles and reading what's going on in the industry, and
Research.
there's not even a single source really. It's
Yeah.
just like the fire hose of information and trying to distill it, make sense of it, and then flip it into something that's useful, either for us or clients or whatever. So I
Is
used to
there?
joke that the last book I read was the Hardy Boys, which is like, back back like in grade school.
Yep.
Um,
That's
that might be a bit of
fantastic.
exaggeration, but it's not too far from the truth, I guess.
That's awesome. Where do you find yourself on YouTube when you're not like going down a rabbit hole? Is there like are a couple of places that stick out as far as
Yeah.
like being really good resources?
So on the business, on the professional side, I just love entrepreneurial things. There's a podcast, Mixergy, which is Andrew Warner does it.
Yeah,
It's
sounds
a great
familiar.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it talks with entrepreneurs, and it's their story and how they took the journey and whatnot. I just love that kind of stuff. I listen to a lot of the Twit podcast, twit.tv is the website.
Okay.
So that's a lot of podcasts and a lot of tech stuff. There's video components of that, but on the more fun side, on the personal side of things, I'm a private pilot, so I enjoy aviation. I like
Oh man.
nautical things and boats and whatnot. So I've been more kind of sucked into this world of learning about boating and that sort of stuff, especially
So
down here in Charleston. I feel like we have to get into boating.
I was gonna say, man. Yeah. Do you sail?
No. My wife's my brother-in-law has a small boat on the Chesapeake, so
Yeah.
we've been boating the last couple of years. The kids love it,
Yeah.
and since we moved down here last summer in the Charleston area, there's a ton of water, ton of boats around here. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to immerse myself and understand how the whole thing works. It just
What?
fascinates me.
I tell you what, next time we find ourselves in Charleston, which I hope is soon, uh, we'll make sure that my son Oliver gives you a sailing lesson because that's what he does when we go to Rhode Island in the summer. He's done it for the past few
Awesome.
years. Yeah, and
Ah, that's cool.
it's time for me. Like I'm ready to learn how to sail too. You know.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. I've been watching some of these YouTubers that literally just sail across the world. That's like what they do, and
Yeah.
they get paid for sponsorships and being YouTubers, and Google sends them checks from being on YouTube and whatnot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really fascinating. Our kids are actually we just signed up our kids for a sailing class.
Awesome.
They have these tiny little sailboats up the road where I
Yeah.
guess they're going to start to learn the basics.
That's awesome. Yeah, he would be happy to teach you that in exchange for you teaching him about being a pilot because that's what he wants to do. Like that is what he wants
Oh,
to
it's,
do is
it's a
to be a
great
pilot.
career. How old is
Yeah.
he? How old is he, Jim?
He's 16. Yeah, he's a sophomore
Yeah,
in high
it's a
school. So yeah.
perfect time to be 16 and being into aviation. There is a definite shortage, and a lot of the airlines are scrambling to try to figure out how to fill all these vacancies. Salaries are going up. It's becoming a really nice career path.
Okay. I'm gonna tell him that. And I'm gonna tell him that maybe if he wants to take a gap year and see if he can make it, we'll see
Oh,
how
there's no
that
question
goes.
he'll make it. If he
Yeah.
enjoys it, yeah, if he enjoys it and likes the challenge of aviation and whatnot, it would be a great path.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Our son wants to be. He's only 8 right now, but he wants to be a helicopter pilot.
Oh,
So he still
awesome.
has a ways to go, but
Yeah.
I'm supportive of that as well.
That's awesome. Well, I know you're on a time crunch, so I want to be respectful of that. One other question for you. If you had the option right now of consuming some gourmet hot chocolate and marshmallows or some good hot soup, what would you choose?
I would go with the soup,
What kind?
no question. A nice healthy vegetable soup, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, something healthy,
Something
something that.
healthy.
So yeah, it makes you feel good. Makes you
Well,
feel good.
good. Well, I'm going to help you feel good because I'm going to send you some vegetable soup from Spoonful
Love
of
it.
Comfort.
Nice.
We've used them with our other podcast guests, but also our own employees. We've sent it to them, and they loved it. It was one of the best things they said they got from the company. So
Awesome. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. I'll get your address off air, and we can send you some. But you're gonna love it.
Love it.
It's super awesome.
I
Oh man, that
appreciate
was a
it.
bad dad joke. Yeah. Uh, all right.
I'm used to those.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeff, one last piece of advice for our listeners in relation to what they're doing with their digital marketing and websites and things.
I think the biggest piece of advice that I ever heard in business in general is
Yeah,
to get momentum. Try to figure out a way to build some momentum. And once the momentum builds, it's a lot easier to ride that wave. But the hardest part of going to the gym is the first day that you go to the gym. And
yeah,
the second most difficult time is the second day you go to the gym. And I think that applies really well to marketing,
yeah,
anything in business, but especially marketing. That the marketing, digital marketing, or any kind of marketing doesn't. It's not some machine where you put in a quarter and it spits off 3 widgets the next day. It just takes time. The
yeah,
best marketing takes time. The best businesses take time to build, and the momentum building up along the way, I think, is what you have to be excited about and capitalize on. And that ends up being the thing that propels you through the tough parts. It's not all going to be easy.
yeah. It's good advice. I love it. Jeff, if people want more Jeff in their life, where do they go to find you?
Check with my wife first to see if that's okay, and then they can go to. So I already mentioned forge3.com. That's the company. LinkedIn's a good place, actually.
Yeah.
I actually find the most engaging pieces of social for me professionally is on LinkedIn. So if you can
Totally agree.
figure out how to spell my last name, you go onto LinkedIn and do a search on there and connect with me and say hello. And I'd love to have you in my universe, and hopefully vice versa.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm glad you're in my universe now. Stick around for a
Likewise.
second, Jeff. I'm going to close this out here. Folks, I hope you got something out of this. I know that you did. I got excited. I made copious notes. Until next time, grow big or go home. Take care.